Hello, my darling souls. I am Kath Telford. Did you know you can rewrite your story? It's true. I've done it 100 times. Throughout this journey, I will share stories with you where I have dealt with trauma, loss, and insurmountable grief. How I healed myself from mental, physical, and sexual abuse. My battle with an eating disorder, low self-esteem, and chronic depression. I will also share lots of happiness and joy. Along the way, I will have some amazing guests who have inspired me and helped me become the woman I am today, all of whom have transformed their own lives. My mission with this podcast is to create a community, one where you will feel seen, heard, and above all else, loved. You are invited to reach out to me with your questions and input on what you would like to hear. With your permission, I will open your hearts and minds to the truth about life. This ride may get bumpy at times, so buckle up and let's go. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world, my darling souls. This is Kath Telford back with another episode of You Can Rewrite Your Story. And once again, want to tell you all how grateful I am for all your amazing responses to my episodes that I've recorded so far, to my incredible guests. And I've been so blessed to have these amazing human beings come on and chat with me to share their insight and their stories with you all. So today I have the beautiful Penny Clyne-Moffat, who for some reason, side note, I keep saying Penny McClymont. McClymonts are a favourite band of mine, and I don't know why I'm fixated on that. But anyway, we've got Penny Clyne-Moffat today, and I'm going to hop you over to her so she can tell you a bit about who she is. Hi, my gorgeous Pen.
Hi, beautiful Kath. How are you? I'm
well.
so excited to be here. You are, guys, she's Mother Earth. We are sitting with Mother Earth, so I'm very excited. So I'm Penny. Nice to meet everyone. I am a psychic medium and an energetics coach. So I teach people how to tap into their intuition and spiritually upgrade. And I've been doing that for a few years. I freaking love it. But I suppose in the light of Kath and what she does, we'll be talking probably about transformation and how how I got here and how I've completely changed, because I've not always been a psychic, and I wasn't just born with these gifts, or I think I did, but I didn't realize. Yeah. And it's been a full-on journey. It's been full on. And I'm at this place at the moment where I have never been so freaking excited about my life and about being psychic. That's so exciting.
So you should be excited. There's so much happening for you. And it's just been, so a bit of backstory. I met Penny earlier this year at an event, which most of the girls that are coming on in the next few weeks, I've met at this same event and was so instantly drawn to Pen and her amazing energy and how beautiful and authentic she is. And you are, my gorgeous girl. Mm-hmm. So, you know, and I was just embarking on this whole journey of doing this podcast. So it was amazing to meet other like-minded people that have been through some stuff in their life that's brought them to where they are now. And as the podcast says, you can rewrite your story. So the more people and the more guests that I have on here that can share these transformations with you, the more insight you have and the more opportunities you have to see that there is another side to life, and that there is hope. There is hope. There is always hope. And we like to share with you how we got to where we are through these stories. So I'm going to ask Pen to tell me about Miss Penny. Where did Miss Penny come from? And what was your wildest? I want to know all your wildest secrets.
I have so many. Oh my God. I think I've lived 1,000 lifetimes in one life, honestly. So I grew up in New Zealand. I am actually originally from the UK, so I've got a UK family. And at a young age, my dad, let's go straight into the trauma.
Let's go straight into the trauma. Why not?
Let's go straight into it.
Why
then
fuck
we have more
around?
time
Let's just
to talk about the exciting stuff, right?
Yeah.
So when I was 4, my mum and dad split up. When I was 6, my dad moved back to the UK. And obviously there's a lot of abandonment wounds at a very young age. When I started to get a little bit older, at the age of 17, I was in a relationship with a guy that was mentally abusive, and from recently I found out was also sexually abusive. So it was a very not nice time in my life for 3 years. And I eventually found the strength to leave him, and I moved to the UK. So I went to uni after I left him, finished uni, only just, probably fueled by alcohol at this point.
Common
There's a lot of
thread in my
alcohol throughout the
podcast
story.
episodes. Alcohol
Honestly,
is a common thread.
It is, yeah. Fueled by a lot of alcohol. I then moved to the UK because I wanted to reconnect with my family over there, my dad's side of the family, and with my dad. And I wanted to kind of break away from where I had grown up. I had a lot of not nice memories there. Don't get me wrong, I had an amazing childhood aside from the abandonment stuff. My mum was freaking amazing. Me, my brother, and my mum, very close. I had no drama sort of thing. My mum was very big on making sure we had a peaceful life, which is really beautiful. So anyway, I moved to the UK, and my way of dealing with said abandonment issues was men, so getting approval from men, which is why I obviously found myself in a horrendous relationship. Ended up in another horrendous relationship. I actually found out he was cheating on me when I was in bed with him, and it was really good. I left him that morning. Yeah, it was disgusting.
Yeah.
He was on Tinder. That's modern day.
Modern day cheating. God,
Yeah.
in my day, they used to have to go off to sleazy nightclubs to cheat. These days, they just have to pick up their phone.
Literally. And he was in the shower and his phone was popping off all the time. I was like, right. So anyway, we left that. And and so I was in the UK. I was working in a sales job. I've always worked in sales, love sales. And I was just going a million miles an hour. And I always used to do this throughout my life. I always used to go, and get really burnt out and just get really sick, and I'd have to stop. And I kept doing this. And I got to a point, I mean, there's a lot of other little stories in amongst all of that, but I got to a point when I was in the UK, I left my job, my sales job, because I was actually like, what the fuck am I doing with my life? Like, I'm 20, I think I was 23, 24. Yeah. I'm in a job that like most people are doing when they're like 30 or 40. Like I was like an area sales manager. It was quite an intense job for a 23-year-old when you sort of don't really know what you want to do with your life. Yeah. Pretty good achievement. But I was like, what am I doing? What am I chasing? And I wanted to have more fun in my life. So I came across a job that was in Spain for an events company, and I was going to move to Spain. I was like, I've always been quite spontaneous, and I was like, fuck it. I'm allowed to swear on here, eh?
Absolutely you are.
I thought so. I just want to double check because I swear a lot.
Although I did piss off one listener who told me how sweet and what was her words? You're very sweet and something or other. But the profanities we had to switch off, and I'm just like, yeah, whatever. You're not my people.
Not for me. My mum told me off the other day. She's like, you swear a little bit too much in your social media. It's not very professional. I said, well, what is professional, Mum? Tell me. So
yeah. Anyway, back to Spain.
Back to Spain. So I was all lined up to go to Spain, flights booked, bags pretty much packed. I'd just been to London to catch up with a friend, and then COVID hit. So I was like, and Spain had shut down. So I'm like, oh my freaking God, what am I going to do? I was living with family at the time because I was actually going to buy a house too. I was really chaotic at that time. I had way too much money for my own good. Didn't know what to do with it. I was very scatty. So, like young, I don't know. But I just wanted to have fun. And at this point, I had been drinking, doing drugs, partying nonstop, and my body was over it. I don't really handle
Did you see that feather that just flew
Yes,
past
I
you?
did.
Oh my God. Hello, spirit.
Hello. That might be my granddad, actually. He always comes in a feather.
Does he?
It's so
Hi,
beautiful.
granddad.
Hi, granddad. Anyway, this will probably happen a lot on this podcast. Oh gosh. Anyway, within the space of 2 days, my intuition, so this is where I start tapping more into my intuition, starts screaming at me. And it had actually been doing this for a while. That's really funny that the feather just floated past, because obviously there's the feather, the brick, and the truck, right? And I'd had the feather in my mind.
We don't want to get to the truck. We'll explain that one later, listeners.
Yeah, we don't want to get to the truck. However, I kept having these little nudges like, you should go back to New Zealand. You should go back to New Zealand. And I was like, I don't know. And I was a real people pleaser back then. So I didn't want to upset my family in the UK. I didn't want to leave them, even though I was leaving to Spain anyway. Somehow I thought that would be better if I just didn't upset anyone and just go somewhere completely different.
Yeah.
And then there was this voice in my head that was like, just go back to New Zealand, go back to New Zealand. I'm like, why the heck would I go back to New Zealand? Like, this does not make any sense. But the pull was so strong. Wow. My mum called me because she's freaking out thinking that I'm not going to get in the country with the lockdowns. She's like, oh my God. She's like crying. And I'm like, oh, you're being so dramatic. It'll be fine. And I got off my poor mum. And I got off the phone and then I was like, oh, no, and everything inside me was screaming, go back to New Zealand. So I was like, right, I'll go. I booked a flight for like 2 days later. I rang my mum and I was like, hi, are you busy on Sunday? She's like, no way. I was like, I need you to drop my car because I hadn't sold my car. I was like, can you drop it off at the airport? I'm coming back. And she was bawling her eyes out. She's like, oh my God.
So had NZ not quite closed at that point?
I got there just as they were closing. So they were closed, but I was able to go and stay at my mum's house. My mum was living with her partner, so her house was free and I could quarantine for 2 weeks by myself. So I didn't have to go in a hotel because after that they were doing hotels. Yeah. So I was very lucky. Timing. Yeah, amazing timing. And in those 2 weeks, so before that, I'd started dabbling in personal development. And I talk a lot about dabbling because we love a dabble. Everyone dabbles before you really go into it. Because we take it serious. I used to be scared that people would think I was weird or like who is she trying to improve herself? How dare she? You know? And I used to listen to podcasts and podcasts like this. I would listen to podcasts and I would learn all these things. So I had been dabbling in the idea of personal development, but nothing really major. When I had those 2 weeks in lockdown, this was quite a big turning point for me. I did a meditation through this podcast with this lady that was doing a podcast. And oh my God, it was amazing. I had never stopped for 5 minutes to even breathe or meditate and even hear the thoughts in my head because I didn't want to because they're freaking crazy. They're
nuts.
Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. I feel fucking amazing. So I was hooked. I was absolutely hooked. I started meditating. I started really working on myself. Yeah. Very much working on myself. But I also had because I've been dabbling in the personal development thing. For years I'd had gut issues. So gluten, I'd had tummy pains. They didn't know what it was. They told me it was what's that one? Endometriosis. They told me it was that I couldn't have kids, that I don't know. And then I also had my appendix out when I was in uni. I've had 4 years since the age of 17, I'd had horrendous gut issues. Yeah. And when I was in the UK, I had a big nudge to heal it. I had a spiritual download, which I didn't know at the time that's what it was. I'm going to heal my gut. Whatever I need to do it, I'm going to do it. Doctors were not helping me. They were telling me all these different things. And I had been in hospital probably a few months before I left for the UK, just from a severe tummy pain that they didn't know what it was. And they put it down to an allergic reaction. to gluten. Anyway, so I had this massive nudge to maybe go down a holistic path of, or I was like, there must be shit energy in there or something. Like there's got to be.
Had this awareness of how energetics work in our body. So
yeah. And it was kind of intuitive, but also I'd watch like documentaries and listen to podcasts. So I had been drawn to that because nothing else was working for me.
Yeah.
And obviously the alcohol and the drugs and all of that did not help. But I was like,
feels good in the moment, doesn't it?
It's fun at the time, right? But never the next day. Never the next day. Yeah. And when I had gone back to New Zealand, I was away from all of that partying, the drugs, the temptation, all that sort of stuff. So I actually sort of reset my mind a lot and really grounded myself. And I felt really safe because I was at home and I was in, around my mom and my brother and all my family and my friends that I've known for a long time. So it was actually really good. And I used to I grew up in Christchurch. I used to look at that as like a place of, oh, it's so boring and like, why would I go back there? But it was actually really nice. Yeah. And my nervous system.
The whole South Island is so freaking spiritual and beautiful.
Honestly.
It's amazing. Anyone that's never been there has to go.
Yeah. New Zealand is so special, so spiritual, so powerful. The people there too. Oh, my heart, honestly. I always have a special place. I got the goosebumps when I said that. I love that. So anyway, I'm going through, trotting along on this little, I'm dabbling at this point. I'm not fully going in. Do you know, I didn't even tell anyone that I meditated because I was embarrassed. So, we've all been there. I'm sure people listening do that now. And I was embarrassed. I don't know, because everyone knew me as the party girl, the crazy party girl. That was all people knew, right?
Yeah.
So I was a bit scared to go out the box. Over time, I ended up working in this job that I absolutely, honestly, it was absolutely soul destroying. I'm not even going to name the place. It was a government department and it destroyed my soul. I was not meant to be there at all. Yeah. And it served its purpose. Thank you, universe. Gave me money at the time and all of the things. It was great. And I met some really beautiful people there. So very grateful. I keep getting really sick in that job, which is funny. Your body tells you. Hey, Kath, your body tells you.
Yes.
Where you're not meant to be.
Right. So this is so body syndromes is a big thing that I teach, all about how we store crap in our body and how our body starts to manifest physically what the disease is in our body.
Yeah. Yes. Well, buckle in because I've got more.
Happening full on for you.
I've got more. I ended up going to a naturopath because I wanted to keep healing my gut, and I was like, maybe I can go to a naturopath and she'll sort that out.
Yep.
And my immune system was really bad too, obviously from my gut. It did work for a bit, but then I kept going back to having an unhealthy gut or just like severe anxiety. And the naturopath was like, your anxiety is coming from your gut. And I was like, oh my God, like what? I was like, just a big thing. And I'd had anxiety probably since the age, maybe since 17. But I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
My mum had always been very open about it and spoken about it. So I kind of was aware, but I always just used to drink it off or whatever. So when I had stopped drinking as much, it really came to the surface.
So how was that presenting when you started getting it at 17? How was that presenting?
It was really subtle when I was 17. So I'd be walking to school and I would get severe like butterflies in my tummy. And I used to think that was normal. And
high school does that to you.
Right. And that's what I thought. I was like, oh, maybe it's just, I don't know. There was maybe a hot boy at school. I don't know. I can't remember, but something like that. Yeah. It then presented itself more when I was in like my second year of uni and I'd just broken up from a really toxic relationship. And he used to tell me he had severe anxiety, and I was like, oh, you poor thing, that sounds really horrible. Like, how do you cope with it? Meanwhile, I had anxiety the whole time. I didn't even realize.
Yeah.
And it would just be feeling sick and no appetite. And I just thought that was normal.
Yeah.
And I was really skinny at the time. And then in my second year of uni, it got so bad, I just couldn't sleep. I could never sleep. My mind was a million miles. And I was like, what the heck is going on? I then did like a few months of just really clean eating, no drinking, and I kind of came right a little bit. Like I felt really good, but it always came back to that. Like my body always naturally went back to being anxious and having bad guts. That was like if I wasn't on track all the time, it would just go back to that.
Yeah.
And it was exhausting.
It's exhausting. Yeah.
I was like, what can I do?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
you're constantly thinking, what the hell did I eat? Did I drink something? It's full on. Yeah.
And it just annoyed, like really, really annoying. I then in 2020, I ended up getting pregnant. Actually, we're gonna get it deep. I ended up getting pregnant to this guy that we were having fun. We were, living our best lives. It was not serious.
Yeah.
I then decided to not keep the baby, which was a really big decision for me. And that definitely brought up a lot of anxiety, a lot, especially in that womb gut space area. Like a lot, obviously trauma happens when you go through that, right? No matter how much you forgive yourself and all of that, it's physically the trauma is still going to be there. The trauma is
still there. Yeah.
Yeah. And after a lot of unresolved stuff from years back, it's obviously just building and building. I then decided to deal with that by going on like a 3-month bender. I kid you not, 3 months of just straight alcohol, drugs. Honestly, I don't even really remember that time in my life.
Yeah.
And towards the end of the drinking of that 3 months, I was like, I had this voice in my head. It was like, enough's enough. Just stop it. Like, I felt like I was being told off. I was like, okay. And when I had moved to Christchurch, I'd been to see a psychic.
Yeah.
And I went to see her again after the abortion because I wanted confirmation that I hadn't murdered this baby. Like, honestly, that was I was like, I need something. And my grandma had been to see psychics in the UK. Like, I've always been interested in them. So it's always been on my radar. And I was so anxious. I needed to know what was going to happen in the future, right? Because that's anxiety. You get worried about the future.
Yeah. So
I needed to know everything. So I kept going to see a psychic. They would always tell me, you are psychic as well. And I was like, haha, you're so funny. Well, that's hilarious. Honestly, I used to just laugh my head off. I'm like, no way. And I got a lot of really great clarity. A lot of, I have now fully forgiven myself for that. It was the right thing to do at the time. I was doing the best I could with the resources and tools that I have as well. And that really made me dive more into the spiritual realm of things. It really opened my mind.
Can I butt in for a second? I want to go back to, so you wanted to find out they hadn't murdered this baby. What insight did you get around that? Because I think that, I know I've got a few people that have contacted me with similar stories that don't understand about the soul and the babies. And just a disclaimer to anybody listening, we are not therapists, we're not experts or anything. We are talking about our belief systems and our journeys, and we don't replace any other professionals out there. So this is our disclaimer, but we will continue to share our stories to the best of our abilities. Yeah. And
everyone's belief is, what you believe is perfect for you. Yeah. My understanding, especially now being more spiritually tapped in, is that was the contract of that baby, was to not come in at that time. She signed that contract beforehand. I know it was a girl. She's actually coming back in. She's not done. She was trying to come in a little bit early. I'm not pregnant, by the way. I don't want to. When I said she's coming back in,
she's hanging around.
She's still hanging around.
Yeah.
She just thought she'd try her luck. So that's really cool now that I can, and that's makes it funny for me. Like, I know I shouldn't even laugh about it, but it kind of is like cheeky, you know, trying to get through just a little bit earlier. I wasn't ready. And so I can see, so now I have an understanding of soul contracts, and that souls choose to come in however they do, whether the soul's time in the 3D was, 7 weeks or however long it was. I think it was 10. That's what they chose as well. And it's all perfect. And that was what was meant to happen. It was meant to lead me to where I am today. Yeah. It was meant to trigger
going
me.
to the feather brick or truck. So to me, it's so my belief system around that one, because I think this is an interesting conversation to have while we're in it. My belief system is that the soul hasn't even come in at that stage, that the physicality's been put there, that physical little being has been put there as a lesson to us. So the soul's hanging around outside going, what are you going to do?
Chilling in the top.
What are you going to do? Do you want me to come in? Do you want me to stay out here? That's how I look at it. It's like, they're waiting for you to make a decision, because there's no point I'm just coming in for, like, I'm just going to come in for 5 seconds. What are you going to do? You're going to keep me? You're going to make me come back at a later time? I'm not going to waste my energy coming into that 3D dimension if you're not going to hang on to me. So that's my belief system around it. So
absolutely. Yeah, couldn't agree more. And they don't necessarily, to my understanding, they come in maybe about 3 months before birth, or they can also come in really at the last minute for birth too, which is why stillbirths and things can happen. Yeah, because sometimes they don't quite get into the body in time, and but that's all, predestined. Those things,
Once again, our belief system. People listening, our belief system. Yeah.
And also a choice, and that was my choice at the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it was perfect. Yeah. So that really reshaped things for me to be able to heal and grow from that and see why that happened. Because obviously you can get with those things, quite big things like that, you can get into a big, like, why me? Why did that happen? Why am I messing with, what's going on? But you're not. Yeah. Well, my belief system is you're not necessarily. Yeah. So really beautiful. And freaking crazy time. So once I'd finished my partying phase, after that, yet another one, I had enough. It was enough's enough. Enough is enough. I then started to look after myself a bit more. I started going to the gym. When I was going to the gym, it's really interesting. I used to be obsessed with the gym. I used to go all the time. And what I realized what I was doing now is pushing all my emotions down or away or numbing myself. Yeah. Rather, it wasn't from a healthy place. I believe the gym can be really great if that's what's great for you. For me at that time, it wasn't from a healthy place. It was like, let's get out of my head and into my body, which can be really good. There's also some really other healthy ways I could have done that, but it served a purpose at the time. It was great. Yeah. Started going to the gym a lot. I then did a reading with Natalie, our coach, and I went to school with her, so that's really crazy. And
because this was a bit mind-blowing for me, because when you told me that story, how you'd gone to school with her sister, and when you reconnected with her all these years later, she didn't even twig who you were until you were sitting in her lounge room one night or something.
When I moved here, we were sitting in her lounge, and she was like, because I remember her from school, but I didn't put the 2 and 2 together of me being friends with her sister and actually going to her house when I was like a little kid. And I was like, oh my God, did your house have like little ducks and they used to shit everywhere? And she's like, this is, how you remember like the weirdest of things?
Sounds and she's like my house every day. Except mine's like goats, not ducks.
I love that. And then she's like, yeah. And I'm like, oh my God, I went to your house because I went to see her. Like, I was friends with her sister in school when I was like 10 or something. But she moved to Australia like maybe a few years after that, so I don't really remember. So
where did you have the reading? Did you have the reading in NZ or over here?
So I was in New Zealand. I was in Christchurch, and she was in Australia. And I think she was on the Gold Coast. I can't remember. And I didn't recognize her because I think I'd been friends with her on social media just from school.
Yeah.
And, you know, like little girl looking up to someone older. And because she had done such a transformation, I didn't recognize her, what she looked like.
Yeah.
In terms of what she used to look like. She used to be like blonde and like party girl, and like that's what I remember. So I didn't realize it was her, but I saw that she was doing like, I don't know, readings.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, cool. I want to have a reading with someone new. I just felt really drawn to it. And I did it, and it was amazing, obviously. I then ended up coaching with her, which was cool. And she did a lot of trauma work on me, which was great.
Mm-hmm.
She had a big job. We did a lot of what we would call clearing the container.
Yeah.
And you might want to speak on this too, Kath. The more I cleared my container, the more room there was for my intuition to come in and for my spiritual gifts to turn on, because I wasn't clouded by my own shit and my own beliefs and my own energy that was trapped in my body too.
Yeah. So now, so how old are you now? 28?
27.
27. So I've got 31 years on you. So when I started to clear my container, there was a lot of shit coming up. And I speak about this on other episodes, where once you start to shift that, all of a sudden all the stuff that's been buried under, so you get the couple of top layers out, and then the bottom layers start to burble up, and then you got the ones that are, you know, stored in your toes, that starts to come up. But the more room you make, like you say, it creates this spaciousness for the good things to come in. When you start letting go of the shit, you start opening your hands for the really good stuff to come in.
You do. You really do. And it is like you say, it's like peeling back some layers, and there are layers. I will never be like, oh my God, I'm healed, you know. There's always layers, but it's so beautiful when you go down that. And when you have a coach such as yourself, Kath, to hold space for you and make you and keep you accountable and actually call you out on your trauma that you're trying to, because your ego will try and bury it, right? Your ego is like, no, I don't want to deal with this. We're safe like this. This is all I've known. I love the ego, but you know.
We love you, ego.
Love you, ego.
You have your purpose.
You have your purpose, and I appreciate that. But step the fuck aside, please.
Please get out of the way.
Because I have shit to clear.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was amazing because I actually had no intention of becoming psychic or doing psychic readings or teaching people how to tap into their intuition.
Backtrack. You had no intention of becoming psychic, like you had a choice.
Yeah. Yeah, true. Like I had a choice, honestly.
Hello.
It's so funny now, honestly. Like I was, because Natalie was like, yeah, you can, this is what you can do, and I can, and I'll teach you. And she was, and I started, the more I cleared my container, weird shit started happening. Like my brother's girlfriend, I was living with her at the time. They moved in to my house. They were about to buy a house, and as they were moving in, I saw all these monarch butterflies like flying around the washing line. And I was like, Shania, that is so weird. There have never been this many monarch butterflies. And then I was like, oh my God, this is something spiritual. I was getting all the goosebumps.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. I was like, what Natalie was saying is fucking true. I was like, God damn it. And then I went to the gym that day, and I was driving home, and in the car, all of a sudden I heard this voice, but it was my voice, but it was in, how do I explain it? The person coming through was my sister-in-law's dad.
Yeah.
He had passed away when she was a baby. That's all I knew. He came through to me, and I always imagined if you had a mediumship experience, you would hear the person's voice, right? Like the 3D voice. But it wasn't. It was my voice, but it wasn't my thoughts. And because I'd been doing a lot of clearing my container and meditating, and I was very aware of my own chaotic, fucked up thoughts.
Yeah.
I was like, this is not my thoughts. And I'm in the car like freaking out. And he keeps showing me these butterflies, like from a visual sense, I suppose from my third eye. And I'm like, okay, the butterflies. I'm like, that's interesting. And then I started getting this really intense like heartburn, like really intense. I'm like, maybe I had too much pre-workout or caffeine, or I don't know. Like, I'm like, is this the end? I actually, honestly, I was like, oh my God. And then I started getting like the goosebumps, and then I started getting, and then he fully came in and he's like, it's Phil. I was like, okay, Phil, I don't know who the fuck you are, but hello, Phil. And I was just like, I was in the car and I had to turn the music off, you know, when you're driving in silence, like it's that scary. And I was just like, hello. I was like, hello. Hello, Phil.
I have to turn the music off to see where I'm going at my age.
It was one of those, I honestly nearly pulled over and I was like, hello. And then he's like, hi, Penny, it's Phil. Oh my gosh, I've been trying to get through to you. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, okay. And then he's like, can you please tell Shania I'm so proud of her. She needs to keep going. I love her, love her, love her. I've been trying to connect with her too, but you're going to help her open up her channel. She needs to clear her shit. I love her. You know, she's amazing. I'm always around her. Those are the butterflies. I'm those butterflies.
Butterflies.
Yeah, the butterflies.
Wow.
And I started crying because I could feel, I'm very kinesthetic and I can feel people's emotions a lot. And I could feel his love for her, and I started bawling my eyes out loud on the way home. Oh my God. Anyway, I get home and I'm like, Shania, losing my shit.
Phil popped in.
I'm like, Phil, your dad's called Phil. And she's like, yeah. And I had seen what he was wearing. He was wearing like a checkered, like, you know, those flannelette shirts. Yeah. And he was wearing one of them. And I was like, oh my God, Shania, he's wearing like a flannel shirt and he's called Phil. And she had never told me he's called Phil. She hadn't really spoken about it a lot. And I was like, he came through and I was saying all these things, and obviously she started crying. And I was like, it's the butterflies. And anyway, I was losing my shit. And I was like, okay, I really need to tap into this. Like, this is not a joke. I was really healing for her. My boyfriend at the time, his mum was psychic, and I don't know if he was an amplifier for my psychic abilities. He didn't tap into it himself. He was a Māori boy, so very, very, very spiritual. And at that time, he was like, whoa, Penny, when you said that, I got all the goosebumps and stuff. So that was really cool. And from there, I was like, okay, Natalie, teach me everything you know. Yeah, because I wanted to help people. I wanted to provide that closure. And I'm like, fuck, if I could be a channel, imagine the shit I could channel. Yeah. Amazing. So I then dove into it. And to be honest, like, it wasn't all, you know, like, let's just skip into the sunset as a psychic and I'm instantly healed and it's all perfect.
The fallacy of the skipping into the sunset, guys.
Honestly, it's the biggest bullshit. There is sunset moments, don't get me wrong.
Absolutely.
We live for the sunset moments, but yeah. So I then had a big, whatever you call it, another spiritual awakening. I keep having these lots of little ones, and then this was quite a big one. Yeah. I felt like I had to shed a lot of myself who didn't think I was good enough. The person who would put people first, all that sort of, there was a lot of ego deaths that needed to happen. Yeah. Part of that was leaving my relationship that wasn't serving me as well. It wasn't even that it was really bad. It was at the time that we had come together, I had called someone in he was just reflecting exactly how I felt about myself. Yeah. And he was just not showing me love. And then I was coaching with Natalie at the time, and I was getting so frustrated. I was like, I just want him to do this and I just want him to do that. And then obviously, hindsight's an amazing thing. It came to the realization that I needed to put myself first. I need to love myself and do what I'm here to do on this earth. And maybe that doesn't involve him at, you know, in that time. And I've gave him a lot of opportunities to progress and grow. And you can only, you know, you can only wait so long.
As you know, I'm going through the same thing here, and it's like been 3 months of us cohabitating, and I keep thinking, maybe it'll work. And then it's like he'll open his mouth and I go, yeah, no.
And that used to
not
happen
going
to
to
me,
happen.
Kath. We were still living together for a couple of months after we broke up. And it is so hard, right? Because you still, I think as us as like healers and people who are channels, it's quite easy to see the best in people.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
you can see almost like the healed version of them, or the version of them with the ego stripped and the really great parts of them.
Yeah.
And that can be debilitating because you're like, God, I just want you to
I know. Just want to grab them and drag them along. And then you realize it's like, but I said to Ian a few months ago, not long before we split up, I said to him, mate, I'm on this fucking rocket ship and I'm going places. So either you're on board with me and you come with me, or you're going to fall overboard.
I love
literally
that.
within a couple of weeks, he fell overboard. And sometimes you just got to cut the excess baggage, don't you?
And I was speaking to Natalie about this at the time, and me and Natalie were talking about it. It's like, you ascend, and unless these people ascend with you, what do you do? Like, and for a while, I got a little bit scared, like, oh my God, what if I'm just destined to always be alone? Because whenever I find someone, what if I keep ascending and growing, and then they just never catch up? But I'm like, no, actually, there's people out there who are also wanting to grow and ascend, and, you know, there's beautiful men out there that are into their growth and will grow with you, maybe at different paces, but they're not going to just stay in their state of like the victim state or whatever state that they're in. They're not going to stay there.
And this journey, I want someone to come up with another word apart from journey, because I think journey's been worn out.
It kind of gives me the ick.
It does give me the ick, big time. This path, whatever you want to call it, this awakening, whatever. It does get lonely. It does get lonely, because you start to realize that the person that you knew or you believe, like I was the party girl, and I was the party girl right for a very, very, very long time. Far too long. Should have grown up a long time ago. Anywho, but you start to realize, now when I've got friends that contact me and they want to catch up, I know it's to catch up to drink.
Yeah.
And I'm not in that headspace anymore. I don't want to sit around and get shit-faced with people. I'll have a drink out of celebration. And this is something I learned from a mentor 30 years ago. She said to me, there's a big difference between drinking for suppression and drinking for celebration. I just couldn't work out where the celebration was. Mine was all for suppression. And, kind of looked like I was celebrating on the outside. So it does get lonely, and you do sort of have to shed that excess I said excess baggage before. I say that with love, Ian, if you're ever listening to this episode, I say that with love. It's just sometimes you can't. We're responsible for ourselves and only ourselves. And and your kids, if your kids are under 10, you still have to be a mother or whatever.
Right?
But we're responsible for our own growth. And if we don't take those steps, we're going to stay stuck. And I don't want to stay stuck anymore. Don't want to be stuck anymore.
Stuck.
Very stuck. Even the
We've
word
been
sounds
there.
sticky.
It's
like the word
nice,
moist, moist and stuck. They're just awful words.
Yuck. That's disgusting. But you're so right. You do have to go through a bit of an uncomfortable, and everyone does this. And to be honest, people don't really talk about it enough. That uncomfortable, it's not like a transition, but it's like you're growing out of the people in your life that you've had, and it's like either buckle in or get off, like you say.
Yeah.
And even with friendships too, I had to do a lot of that. And you do sometimes feel quite isolated in, especially if you stay in that area where, like for me, I was still in Christchurch, but everyone that knew me in Christchurch, I was the party girl. So it was very difficult for me to, I suppose, move away from that. It wasn't difficult I didn't want to do that anymore, actually. So that bit wasn't difficult, but I think it was difficult for my friends to understand that this is my path now, either buckle in or I'm sorry, with love.
And there are some people that will come along with you that mightn't necessarily be at the same level that we get to mentally, emotionally, spiritually, whatever. But they are still barracking for you. They're, you know, they're the friends that sort of hang around. They're like, yeah, well, it's a bit too scary for me. I don't want to go there. But hey, mate, I've got your back and I'm here for you anytime. And those friends will stay around. Like I've just done the big, I've refused to do the family Christmas this year, which is big for me because I'm from a big family.
Me too. Oh my God, that's so exciting.
Yeah, because I'm like, every time I step back into my family, I become that insecure, people-pleasing, talk too much. I talk too much anyway, but I've got a lot of good stuff to say. But my family don't think so. You know, like my family sort of go, oh, right, she never fucking shuts up. And I go into that shutdown mode where then I, you know, get the verbal diarrhea, my mum used to call it. And I don't like feeling like that anymore.
No.
I want to be, when I step back into my family, if that should ever happen, because they're all quite a bit older than me and some of them are going to fall off the perch soon. But you know, I want to be able to step back into my family with that strength and resilience and that knowledge that who I am is perfectly okay. And I don't actually need to revert back to that person anymore for you to be comfortable.
Yeah.
And that's what it is.
That's a really big one for people too, when you're growing. And there's always this fear of being alone, right? So every human has that big underlying fear of like, I don't want to be alone in my life. I don't want to die alone, or I don't want to push away, you know, you want to be in a crowd, you want to be, you know, so it is scary. Hey, that was a big reason why, to be honest, for a long time I didn't own that I was psychic, because I'm like, it's so different compared to what everyone else I knew what they were doing. And even with my family, like I didn't want to talk about it or anything. And my mum especially, she's very scared of the spiritual world. And I suppose, I don't know if it's like her upbringing and like religious things and stuff like that. She's very scared of it. As soon as, and this is actually quite interesting, very recently, my family are very on board with what I'm doing and very interested. Now, what changed, because they never used to be, I did an NLP course recently, and it was perception as projection. So how I feel about myself is how
light bulb moment about to occur. Yes.
How I feel. Thank you for the warning. How I think and feel about myself is how others will be and react. And if I work on myself and elevate myself and raise my vibration, everyone around me will eventually do the same in time, right? I got to give them their own time. Everyone's on their own journey. You do you. But that flipped a freaking switch for me, because it put all the power in me. And I was like, right, what I'm not doing is I'm not owning my shit. I'm not owning who I am. I'm, to my family, to my friends, to myself, to everyone. As soon as I chose, you can actually just choose in an instant, which is wild to me. I was like, oh my God, it's that simple. Why didn't no one tell me? You can actually just choose. You just choose. God.
It's just choice. You just wake up and choose to be that.
You can just choose. And I was like, right, this is who the frick I am. I also did I had all these freaking throat chakra upgrades, which is obviously your authenticity and speaking who you are, and all these other things. Before the course, I'd also had a big talking to with my family, as in, this is not going to carry on how it is. I will not be there at Christmas. I love you all. I'll see you after Christmas. And boundaries too. But huge. What's really beautiful, my mum and my brother and his girlfriend came and visited a few weeks ago. And typically, like, my mum's always questioning it from a scared way. Like, she's scared of spirit. I think she's just scared that bad spirits are going to come in. And I'm like, Mum, actually, it doesn't necessarily work like that. What you believe is perfect for you. But I have different beliefs. And I think the more stories she hears about what I'm doing, she's like, oh, this is amazing. And the more I own it. So I noticed in my family, my brother just looks at me and is like, you need to be in a mental hospital. He actually just looks at me like I'm crazy. And I actually just find that really funny now. And I'm just like, I still talk about it. I still talk about it like all the time, about anything spiritual. And he's just like, oh, you're talking about your woo-woo stuff? Like, And his
I know,
girlfriend.
do you love how the word spirituality in the last 10 years is all of a sudden we start calling it woo-woo, and people are actually less scared of you calling it woo-woo than if you say, I'm spiritual, I'm a bit woo-woo. And they're like, oh, I love that.
Oh, cool.
Oh,
Yeah, it's like really cool. Yeah. It's so funny. But his girlfriend, she's psychic now, fully trained her to be psychic. She's cleared her channel. She's done a lot of healing, and so he's getting more used to it. So she's really open to it now. So I can talk to her. And then my mum, we were sitting on the beach, and she's like, can I try meditating? Like, can you help me? And I was like, oh
my God, I love that.
I was like, oh my God, because that is, for me, that is so big from her going from this shit is freaking crazy to, okay, I'll try something that I'm comfortable with. And that it gives me goosebumps. Like, that makes me so happy. And whatever makes her comfortable is perfect. But I realized me working on me has allowed my family to be more open, to be more accepting, to be, to learn parts that they want to learn. And I'll let them ask questions if they want. And then I took my mum, I actually did a mediumship reading on my mum and some of her, I say her family members, they're mine too. But they were specifically channeling for her, came through, and she could feel it, like she could feel the energy, and it was really beautiful. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like I've created this. Like, I've been patient and I've been working on my authenticity and showing up. And over time, they're jumping on board. My brother's still not fully on board, but we'll get there. I'm not done yet.
Do you know, years ago when I started doing radical forgiveness back in the 80s, 90s, my mum organised for the priest from the local church to come over for dinner one night because she was convinced I'd joined some kind of cult. Fucking hilarious. She's like, Shane's coming for dinner tonight. Father Shane's coming. And I'm like, oh, cool. I like Father Shane. He was the coolest dude. Yeah. And like halfway through dinner, him and I are drinking red wine, and he's like, you got a fag? And I'm like, yeah, I got a fag. So we're out on the deck smoking and drinking. And my mum's like, what happened? And he goes, Marg, I haven't always been a priest. He said, I've been a priest for 5 years. Before that, I was doing rebirthing and rolling around in jungles naked. He goes,
I love that.
I think what Kath's doing is amazing, and I'm totally on board with where she's coming from with this stuff. It just totally blew my mum out.
I love that. And well, there's so much crossover, right?
So, until she saw me in action doing one of my healing ceremonies, and my dad came and my sister-in-law came, and at the end of the evening, my dad sat at the back of the room and did this. And I always knew if my dad, he wasn't a man of a lot of words, but if my dad did that, my heart would just explode, because I knew that meant, I've got, he's got me.
Yeah.
But the fact, it does freak people out because they're like, oh, she's spiritual. Fuck that. We just change the way we think and how we feel and what we believe, and it makes us better human beings. We're, we're loving, we're kind. We still get pissed off. We still tell people to fuck off. We still do all of that. But, I was laughing with one of my mentors the other night, and I said to her, fuck people. People annoy me. I go, I love their spirits. I said, but fuck humans. Like,
I think that every day, Kath, every day. Like, just put me in the spiritual world, please.
I just live there all the time, please. But that's not how it works, as we know.
No.
Anyway, so Shania is now psychic too, which is amazing.
Psychic. Yeah, so exciting. And it's so cool just to have more family members on board.
The conversations are better too, aren't they? Because when you like with us, we could talk for fucking hours, and we can't, but we will one day. But like boring conversations do my head in now.
I can't.
How's the weather? Yeah, it's really good. Oh, do you know that Neil Mitchell said this on the radio today? I don't care. I actually don't care.
Honestly, it's for me, like with family members who will want to bitch about like negative talk. I'm so big on that. Like negative, feeding into the fear and the negative stuff. And I'm like, just shut up. I actually can't do it. That's a big reason why I'm not going for Christmas.
Yeah, no, I can't do
and
it
it's
anymore.
like, I love you. I love you so much. I'm always here for you, and I'll talk to you individually, but I want productive conversations. I want positive conversations. How can we improve your life? Where are we growing? What challenges are we having at the moment? Like, from a positive perspective. because a lot of people, when you wake up, and I know we talk about waking up as like this big thing, it can go over time, right? But one day you just sit there and you look around and you're like, everyone's like so negative. And when you wake up, you're like, fuck. You know?
Find that in the workspace arena. I like come home and I have to do a complete detox of my day because there's nothing positive. The only positive thing is dealing with the clients because I adore them. But the matrix, I'm doing inverted commas for anyone not watching this live, the matrix, as we call it, this bullshit, the government, all that sort of stuff, the density around that. And I have to come home. I am exhausted and cannot even, if my phone rings, I'm like, love you, dude, cannot even get another word out of my mouth. And I don't like living in that space.
No.
Oh, and you've just resigned.
I know. I know. So it's actually funny you say that, because in that job, love the company, love the people. I was exhausted. I was actually exhausted. And like you mentioned just before, the density of the energy, it wasn't aligned with me anymore. It's like when something's not aligned, you feel like you're pushing shit up a hill.
Yeah.
And it's not working. And it wasn't serving me financially. It wasn't serving me mentally, spiritually, fit. Like nothing about it was serving me anymore. It's actually really funny. I went to the beach one morning on Friday when I messaged in the chat last Friday, and I woke up. It was actually a week ago today. No, a week tomorrow. I woke up, went to the beach, caught up with a friend, did a lot of breath work, went for a walk around the lake, did a meditation. I was just really restless. And I was like, why am I so freaking restless today? It was like really annoying. I was like, there's something big's going to happen. I could feel it in my bones. I was like, oh my God, here we go. Okay. And my guys were kind of like saying to me, buckle in. And I'm like, what am I buckling in for? Like, and so
we get told to buckle in a lot, guys.
A lot. Yeah. I'm like, oh God. Okay. And not in a bad way. Like I was like, I know it's going to be good, obviously, but what the heck? And then I'm in the shower and all I could hear like yelling, and my guys like to yell at me sometimes because I'm quite stubborn and sometimes I don't listen to them. Honestly. And they're like, quit. And I'm like, and I'm like, cool, I might quit like next week. No, you're quitting today. Because I had a meeting that day already set up. Every month we have a review, like, because it's a sales job. So we have a monthly review, see how we're doing. I've not been doing that great the past few months because I've been mentally checked out, not there, don't really care, whatever. And when I was in the meeting, I sat there, didn't do any work before the meeting. It was at 10 o'clock. I normally do work straight away. And I was just like, and my friend's staying with me at the moment, and she was like watching me pace around the room because I knew I was like, Erin, I'm going to quit my job today. She's like, what? What is this morning? I was like, I'm going to quit my. And she's just like, oh my God, I can't deal with it. She's like, oh my God. And she's laughing. She's like, no, good on you. Like, she's such a supportive friend. She's just like, you know me for a long time. She's like, you just do you. Whatever you got to do. She trusts my intuition. And I'm just like, I don't know what's going to happen. I haven't got anything figured out, but I'm going to quit my job. And she's like, okay. I'm like, I don't know why it's happening today, but it is. And then I sat there and they started going into the meeting. I'm like, can I just stop you all there? We're not doing this anymore. Like, I'm done. And it just came, I know it came out so blunt. But I had a really great conversation with like the director and with my manager. And I was like, look, it's not even you guys specifically. It's me. I'm not in this energetically anymore. I'm in my business. I need to put more energy into that. I'm sick of traveling to Brisbane every bloody day. And I love you. Thank you. And then they asked if I could work for another 2 weeks. And I just said, no, sorry. And I was finished.
Good on you.
I know. It's like one of the crazy, but it sounds amazing. Like, obviously everyone's like, yeah, you quit your job. And it is so exciting. But I also have had to do a lot of like exercises on myself that I've learned in NLP to get rid of those fears.
The fear's huge.
The grief.
I was going to ask you.
Actually grieving a life that I used to live in, a life that I've been so safe in for so long. And you're grieving. Yeah, I'm grieving an old part of myself. Like a part of myself just died. Sayonara.
Yeah, sayonara, baby.
Bladers. And it's so scary. And like, it's actually like my nervous system. I've had to ground myself a lot the past week. I've been sleeping a lot.
Yeah.
I've been also, on the other hand, I've been not sleeping because I've been like sometimes in the middle of the night, I wake up and I'm like, what the fuck did I do? Like, what the fuck did I do? But yesterday I signed a new one-to-one client. So
yeah, congratulations.
when you take radical action, hey,
yes. Yeah.
the universe rewards you.
Yeah.
And that just was confirmation that I needed yesterday that I'm doing the right thing. And someone reminded me, actually, in my Instagram DMs, they messaged me and said, holy shit, Penny, you know that event that me and you met at? She said, when you were talking at that event, you were talking about what your spirit guide said to you. And your spirit guide said, she's called Grace, she's very beautiful, by the way. She said, you're going to leave your job in November. And so I was like, okay, cool. And I didn't really think about it much until then. And even a few days before I had the download to quit my job,
yeah,
I was thinking, I was in a little bit of a tizzy, just for like half an hour, you know, every now. We're all human. And I was like, fuck, everyone's leaving their jobs. I don't know why I thought everyone's leaving their jobs. They're really not. But like,
yeah.
I made up in my head, everyone else is leaving their jobs. Everyone else is living the best life that they want to live, and they're not stuck in the 9 to 5, and they don't have to travel to Brisbane. And I was getting really in my head, and I was like, why the fuck can't I do it? And then obviously I just did it. So you can.
So good. Well, I'm doing the scale down. I've done the I need to go part-time because I hit burnout a couple of weeks ago. I literally I could not stop crying. I wasn't sleeping.
It's real
I was
though, right?
stopping and eating donuts in the car on the way home because I was so depressed. And I thought, this is bullshit. And I just said to her, I need 10 days off. I've hit burnout. And I know where I'm going in my life. I've just got to get over that last little hurdle and just say, you know what, actually part-time's not going to fly for me either. But I had to, you know, sometimes we have to do things for a reason. And I've been looking to rent a house because I'm moving out of here. And you're not going to get a house when you so I can pay the bills. I'm unemployed currently.
But I can pay bills. I know.
So you know, I think I've hung in there for long enough. And while I love what I do, like I said, the density and coming home every night and just being so drained, and
it's so draining. And then you don't have energy to put towards what you love. And that was what was, because we're obviously in that group, we're in reclamation together. And I found like I was never home in time for the calls, and I'd be there for half the call, and then I'd miss out on like the activities, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm here, but I'm not here. There's another feather right in front of my face as I say that. And that affects the rest of the group. Like if you're not showing up, you know, and I'm not putting my energy into it.
And then you feel like you're letting everybody else down. So that was a big thing with me too, is I'm not, even when I'm in the calls, I'm not in the call because my brain's thinking, oh my God, I've got 50 emails I've got to answer from my job today, and I've still got to do this person's report and that person's report. And I'm like, oh my God, I need to start giving that energy back to me now.
And even something as simple as doing, like you say, like recording a podcast or doing social media posts and things, like when you're working in that 9 to 5, it's like you finish your day and you're like, oh my God, the last thing I feel like doing is posting on social media. And then it comes from an unauthentic place because you're just doing it to tick a box, and you're not doing it from inspiration, and you don't have space in your life to be creative and for the creativeness to flow, because typically, you know, your 9 to 5's not usually very creative jobs.
Not. Once again, disclaimer, we're not recommending everybody go out there and leave your jobs. We understand
Please
you have to pay the bills. Please do not go out and quit your job.
I may also be getting a part-time job. So
so we do things. We have to do
financially
human
responsible.
Things. Yeah, we're being financially responsible.
We're here having a human experience.
We've still got to abide by the human law. However, just letting you know that, once these things, you'll start to realize that some people won't. Some people will stay in that life for the rest of their life, and I can't think of anything more daunting.
Neither. I don't know what I'd rather do. I probably wouldn't want to say what I'd rather do on here, but just cut in, honestly.
Just way too many disclaimers.
The whole podcast is full of disclaimers. Are we surprised?
Full of disclaimers and swear words. All right. Now, how are we going for time? We're doing really well, but we will need to start to wind up soon. Oh, fuck, I could talk to you for hours. I love you so much.
We could do this for hours.
Oh, no, we really could. And we will soon when I get my backside back up to Queensland. So I wanted to just quickly go back into what we touched on earlier, and I'm only going to take you back into it because it's imperative to an episode that I've got coming up, talking about sexual trauma in relationships and how we sometimes don't recognize that what is happening to us in a relationship is necessarily a bad thing because we think that's what we have to do because we're in the relationship. Do you mind if we go back into that?
I'm so glad you brought that up. That's really big on my heart at the moment. It's actually something that's recently come up and that I've recently been dealing with. So I'm so happy to talk on it because it's going to help so many people.
Yeah.
I can give you a bit of a story.
Please do.
A story time. So I have that relationship. I was 17 through to about 20. 20? Yeah, something like that. I don't know. It was all a bit blurry. And throughout the relationship, he was very emotionally manipulative and wore me down over time. In hindsight, that's what was going on. He had a lot of mental health issues. I was probably hormonal because I got whacked on the pill at the age of 15 and God knows what was going on with my hormones then. And also probably dealing with abandonment wounds from when I was younger. And so anyway, so obviously I attract someone in who's going to keep leaving me. So he would always leave, just every now and then, he would just randomly message me like, I can't do this anymore, I'm done, and just break up with me. And I'd be like, what the fuck? And I was so attached to him. I thought I loved him. Maybe I did. I don't know. And I was so attached to him. I let him cheat on me. I did not know about the sexual trauma part of it until about a month ago. No, probably about 6 weeks ago. The memories came up. So I recently did a course about a month ago, NLP, and all about retraining your unconscious mind. Because when I'm working with clients who want to clear their container, that's the modalities I use to clear their container. It worked on me. It was amazing, etc. And so I was doing the certification a few weeks beforehand. I was listening to the audio, and it's wild how stuff works out. Natalie was talking on her podcast, and you mentioned radical forgiveness at that course. And I think that kind of led me onto the whole forgiveness thing. And me and Natalie were talking that day about forgiving all of your exes and all of the guys that you'd done. And I was like, okay, I think I've forgiven everyone. But there was that particular ex, I'm not going to name him, who I thought I'd forgiven him, but I actually still wanted to punch him in the face. I was actually still really angry at him. And to be honest, it's probably something I'm still working through. And I'm allowing myself some time to work through it because it's actually something really big and it doesn't happen overnight, you know? And when I first moved here, really interesting, my relationships after him were never sexually abusive or anything like that. However, I was always really big on consent. Like, consent was something, if anyone would try and push me or I'd get really angry and it would really trigger me. And I never really thought much about it. You know, I never really dove into it. And I always had a wall up, and my wall after my recent ex just went up even more. Like the thought of dating someone, even to this day, I'm a little bit better now, but the thought of dating someone like for the past year made me want to be sick. Like, no, thank you. Don't want to let anyone else in. Close. Would rather not. Thank you. Goodbye, everyone. Everyone can fuck off. That was my energy. And me and Natalie actually went to a love expo thing, and we were in this meditation in a tantra temple, which was so out of my comfort zone. I was sitting there in the meditation, I just started crying, and I was like, oh my God, Natalie, I've got this massive wall up and I don't know where it's coming from, but I need to figure it out, and I don't want to not let love in. Do you know what I mean? I need to figure this out. And she's like, okay, well, this is great. She's like, you need to do courage codes things, right? Scary things, start going on dates. which I did, and I got so triggered, and it was beautiful. And but that aside, anyway, fast forward, I went to, and it was weird, leading up to this course, I had people saying to me, I was dating this guy and he said, you've really got a wall up, I can really feel it. And I was like, I know, you're so right. And I'm like, I know, bear with me. And then even some of my friends have been saying, hey, like, when are you going to let people help you? When are you going to open up? I'm like, whoa, okay. And then I was listening to the audio one day for the course, and it said your unconscious mind, so this is a learning that you can have about the unconscious mind, will store memories and suppress memories for your protection.
Yeah.
If you do not have the tools and resources to cope with it at the time. Your unconscious mind will also bring up memories for resolution when you have the tools and resources to deal with it. So when that happened, that night, I was meditating, and I can go into a pretty deep meditation. I swear I went to like another fucking dimension. It was the weirdest meditation I've ever had in my life. And my guides took me back to a time with my ex. Prior to that, I've been having dreams of this particular ex of sexual abuse, but I just thought, I didn't think anything of it. Like I didn't put two and two together. They then took me in this meditation and showed me, like, me passed out. I'd taken drugs this particular time, or I think it was alcohol. I honestly can't remember. And like passed out on the bed, and I obviously wasn't aware of it happening, but him raping me.
Yeah.
They then showed me lots of times that I tried to say no, and I just let him anyway, because I just didn't want to deal with whatever else would happen. Yeah. And I was just like, whatever. And they showed me all these times, and I woke up, like, or I came out of the meditation, I was literally like sweating, crying. I was like, oh my fucking God. I was like, that makes sense. It makes sense. I was like, that is why I can't forgive him.
Yeah.
That, because I hadn't fully seen all of it.
Yeah.
I then put two and two together. I've been to an energy healer back in New Zealand before I moved here. And she said to me one day, she's a little bit psychic too, and she goes, your ex from when you were younger, she's like, did he abuse you at all? And I was like, no, like, I was like, yeah, he was mentally abusive, but nothing. And she just looked at me, and then she kind of looked at me knowingly, but she didn't say anything. And then I was questioning it the whole way. I was like, the whole drive home, I was like, did he? And then nothing came up, nothing. I couldn't remember anything. So I was like, maybe he hasn't, I don't know. And I left it, but now I know what she saw, and she realized I wasn't ready. I didn't have the tools and resources to deal with that. Yeah, so that came up a few weeks before the course, or like a week before the course. I then went into the course, and I did this like big breath work, and I had to like relive it a lot, and it was really horrible. Like my whole, like, it's like your body remembers what has happened. I asked the facilitator of the course about gut issues. Like, I just wanted to know where they come from. And obviously you talk a lot about energy stored in the body. She said gut issues can come from disgust. And she's like, when did your gut issues start? And I said, when I was 17. And she said, what disgusted you? What happened that disgusted you when you were 17? And I was like, oh my God. Oh my gosh. It all like all the puzzle pieces. I get goosebumps saying this, because this is so, I know this is like, it's fucked up, but it's also so exciting for me, because it's the puzzle pieces that are coming together. They're fitting together, and it makes sense why I've had these gut issues. I obviously attracted him in at that time because I had low self-worth, low self-belief, limiting beliefs of I'm not good enough, people pleasing, all these sort of things, and I realized my throat chakra was so blocked because I wasn't telling him no. I decided from a young age that my voice wasn't important. All these little things that had added up to that. And she said to me, you can actually just decide that that's not, yes, it's part of your story, but it doesn't have to continue to be your story. It doesn't, because she was like, you left him, right? And I said, yes. She's like, well, you're a different person now. You're not going to attract that in again. Trust yourself, and that now you're a completely different person. You've been doing the work. Who you attract in now is going to reflect how you feel about yourself. It's going to be completely different from them. So, and it just made so much sense why I had such a wall up.
Yeah.
And what amazes me, and I was actually I was so, I was a bit nervous to tell my mom because I just, like, I just didn't want to upset her. I just don't want to stress you out unnecessarily. I told her when she was over, and she was just like, wow. She said, do you know what amazes me? And she's like, you need to tell people about this, because everyone around me and that knows me considers me very strong and very just says shit how it is. And I have mostly been like that. But she's like, isn't it interesting how a man, and mum's had similar situations, but she's like, how a man or a woman or a man or whoever can wear you down so much to the point where you feel like there's not a way out, you don't have a voice, and you can't ask for help. Because me and my mum have a very good relationship, and she's like, you could have asked me for help. And I said, yes, I know that. That's why I didn't ask you, because I know you would have done something about it. And some sick fucking part of me didn't want that to stop.
Yeah.
And that's also a big shame piece, right? You have to forgive yourself too for allowing that to happen, and for allowing someone to do that to you in a relationship, and forgive yourself for leaving when you did and not sooner,
Yeah.
And my mum said it's just amazing how that can happen to anyone. It can literally happen to anyone.
And this is, people look at us and go, because I've got a very, very similar story with gut issues, and which I won't go into today because I'm doing a whole episode on it. But, people look at us and go, oh my God, they're, big, strong women and, don't take shit from anybody. When you're broken down like that, when somebody has worn away at your resilience, manipulated you emotionally, and do things to you like that when you're not in your body. And I actually said it on my live yesterday, which if you have a look at Insta, I've said it on my live. I went to yoga yesterday morning and I had this visceral reaction as I laid down in the yoga class, like I wanted to be sick, and I thought, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. And I started, my fight or flight clicked in, and I'm like, I'm fucking out of here. I'm going to go tell the yogi, I'm really sorry, I can't be here. And I'd been contemplating doing this episode around sexual trauma and stuff. Anyway, so I'm like, what's going on? And what's going on? I've got to push through it. And when she came back into the room to introduce the class, she said, now we're going to be doing some hip work today. And I'm like, hello.
Of course.
Of course. Where is my sexual trauma stored? In my granny hips, as I call them. So I worked through it and I felt so much lighter when I left. But I was like, my spirit already knew that I was going to be going into that before I even knew what the class was. I thought it was like a yin and a yang class. Yeah, it was a yin and yang class. But it was amazing. Isn't it funny how our bodies work?
Our bodies know. They tell us. Yeah, they tell us. It's so amazing. And it's what I find so amazing is all those years ago, I had that nudge, like, you're going to go heal your gut. Little did I know I'd end up here.
Yeah.
And I'm still working through it, there's a lot to work through. And I think a big part of me is just courage codes and trusting myself again to make, and trusting men again, I think.
Huge.
It's
a
huge big thing.
So I developed IBS, dating a bloke at 17, same sort of thing for a couple of years.
Wow.
And I saw like 6 doctors, and they sent me to a psychiatrist because they were convinced it was in my head.
I got told it was in my head too.
Yeah, it's always in our head.
Nuts.
God forbid there's anything actually really wrong. It's in your head.
Yeah.
And the psychiatrist that they sent me to in the end, and he described the pain to me. And I'm like, oh my God, you understand? He goes, yeah, I know exactly what's wrong with you. He said, you need to get out of the relationship you're in because it's slowly killing you. Unbelievable. Whereas I'd been told for 2 years there was nothing wrong with me. And straight away, he described the pain to a T, and basically said, you need to get out of that relationship.
We need more psychiatrists like that. Where are they?
I know. And he was an old dude. He wasn't like, I was 17, 18. So he would have probably been way younger than I am now. But to me, he seemed really old. But for him to say that to me, it was so unbelievable that people were thinking like that back then.
Yeah.
You know, that it's
Yeah.
our body. We could bang on. What is the time? How are we going for time? We might have to split this up into 2 episodes. I might have to say, my VA, can you make this 2 episodes, please? And we'll just tack some on at the end. Because we can just keep going. It's been really good. But now what I'm going to do. So do you feel complete with what you were just talking about? Is there some more you want to add on to that story about the abuse, or do you feel that you're complete? Because I hate leaving people open.
Nothing really more for me to add. I do just want to say, like, obviously, if you get those nudges to work on your body or heal your body, there may also be other reasons.
Yeah.
And it's really important. I do want to say as well, it's good to have support and maybe someone who can coach you through that and give you tools to process all of the emotions. Because I do have a lot of support at the moment while I'm processing this. So yeah, that's all I'll say.
Very good. All right. So any practical tips for our listeners on, let's say, around something like this? If somebody is going through a relationship where they're feeling that their body is being disrespected, their spirit's being disrespected, or they've been through something like that and they feel that they're still holding on to it, do you have any tips for them?
Yeah, I have a couple. The first one would be putting your ego aside and actually reaching out for help. I wish I could have told my younger self, like, it's okay, like, just reach out for help. I wish I could have done that. I didn't. But now, obviously, even now, it's I don't know what it is. Some people don't like asking for help. It's like, oh, you're a burden, and oh, you're this, and oh, you're that. There are people out there like Kath who want to help you, who want to hold you space for you during these times. So my biggest thing is reaching out for help, because sometimes these aren't things that you can process alone, and you need to bounce ideas off people, and it can be really uncomfortable talking about it. Getting uncomfortable to be vulnerable, with those people that you do trust, that is horrible. Like, it's not nice, but you do have to do that. And find whatever resource and tool is going to help you get to the next step. Like, you're obviously not trying to get, for me, obviously after finding out about all of this, I'm not trying to get from A to B in like a week. I'm not trying to get from being, honestly, about 6 weeks ago, I was back to where I was when I was 17, like full, all the emotions, everything, that full fight or flight in my body. I'm not trying to go from that to then like full forgiveness. Oh my God, I love him. I want to, all of this stuff. There's lots of little steps in between to get to that. So asking yourself, what can I do to love myself right now? What is going to benefit me? And whether that be sitting there, I know I talk about meditation a lot, but sitting there in meditation, giving yourself some space and allowing your intuition to tune in, to give you the answers that you need on what you should do next, whether that be reaching out to someone, whether that be going to see someone, a coach, a psychic, a energy healer, anyone that can give you the next tool to get you to the next spot, essentially. That's probably the biggest advice I can give, because trying to do this type of intense healing alone, nah.
No, and this is where we say the ego gets in the way, because we think we can do it on our own. But then the ego is the part that's telling us, you're right, you'll be right, mate. She'll be right. You'll get over it. Get over it.
Just go for a walk it off. You'll be fine. Walk it off.
Go run around in the grass. Go, people say go ground yourself. Go run around in the grass. That's not fucking helping me. I need something a bit deeper than that. Thanks anyway,
absolutely.
Guys.
And while I have been grounding myself a lot during this time, there's also been so many uncomfortable moments. Like, it was just obviously perfect timing. I was in that course at the time. I had to be so vulnerable and talk about it in front of like 60 other people, which made me want to spew. And but it's been so much better over time, just talking about it with my friends, taking small steps every day to try and get closer to that forgiveness piece as well. Yeah. And forgiving myself. That's the first piece I want to forgive. Not him. We'll get to him eventually. But forgiving myself, because as far as my biggest understanding is, you know, at a conscious level, I can now see that I called that in myself.
Mm.
At a spiritual level, I called that in to be able to help other people with it and to be able to grow myself, but forgiving myself for that.
So
just,
I'm going to throw you a little radical forgiveness line.
Please do. I'm ready for it.
Everything that happens for a reason, and that reason is for our highest good. Therefore, nothing wrong has happened. Therefore, there is nothing to forgive.
Oh, Kath. That is amazing. Oh, that is actually so good. That is life-changing.
Yeah.
There's nothing to forgive because it wasn't even wrong.
There was
Who says it's wrong?
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
And that is why people pay you the big bucks, Kath. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So do you have any tools that you can share that we can put links in that you might have used over time? Is there anything like Alyssa shared the Wheel of Life, which was really helpful for some people to be able to go on that and do their, you know, where they were sitting emotionally, spiritually, physically, all the rest of it. Do you have anything like that? Or is there any resources that we can put in the links that you would share with the
There's
audience?
probably a couple of, for me, meditation is really good because it gives you the chance for your intuition to come in and speak to you some truths. Sometimes you don't want to hear what your intuition has to say. So I could leave a couple of links for really good meditations for you.
So mention them now, and then we'll also put them into the show notes for everybody.
Cool. Yeah. So a couple of them, they'll be from great meditations. They're about 5 to 10 minutes long, and they're guided, and they're there for you to get the download that you need as well.
Beautiful.
So if you need help, and to give yourself space, but they're short, they're 5-10 minutes,
which is a really good place to start when you're starting to meditate, because when someone goes to you've got to meditate for an hour, I'm like, fuck that shit, mate, I've got way too much stuff to do.
That shit's not real. Like
it's not real.
We're all here also having a human experience,
right?
And sometimes we have shit we need to do, and I do meditate a lot, but I don't meditate for an hour every day.
No, you know, like if you want to pull up 10 minutes here and there and just go, I just need to recenter, that's okay. But these people that can sit there, like, who can't not talk for fucking 6 hours? I cannot go on one of those retreats, but anyway, that's a whole other story. So the great meditation.
Yeah.
Now, I want you to also tell everybody where they can find you for an amazing reading. I have had a reading with Penny, and fuck me, it was absolutely mind-blowing. And I know I say this about all of my guests, but I have a special love and a special appreciation for the people that I have on here. And I have been on this earth long enough to pick up a charlatan at 20 paces. I can smell a shonky from 30 paces, and she's one of the real ones, this one, and I love her so much. So tell us where we can find you, Miss Penn.
So you guys can find me on Instagram. So it's just Penny Clyne-Moffat. We can put it in the show notes if you want.
Links
there'll be a link there where you can book in a reading, or I would love for you to just flick me a message and we can have a bit of a chat and figure out a time. Readings go for an hour. I can do them via Zoom. So if you're not in the Gold Coast, we can make something work. My readings have changed so much lately.
Oh, I'm booking in again soon, I can tell you.
Honestly, they are like, I'm channeling people's business plans, life purposes, what they need to heal in themselves. It's getting so intense. I think because the more work I do on myself, it's like the clearer my channel is, and they're actually getting really insane. I'm going to have to make them an hour and a half, I think, because they're just like getting out the gate.
Start charging accordingly, because you're still one of the cheapest around that I know. Heavens to Betsy. And I know you've got to build that, but I'm giving a full accreditation to this woman. She is the best, and she is absolutely true authenticity and true, pure, absolute fucking love. And I can't speak more highly of you, Miss Penn, and what you do.
Thank you, Kath. I freaking love you. I'm so glad we met that day. She is Mother Earth, everyone. She is Mother Earth.
Nutty as a peanut butter jar, but I'm all heart. Heart. All right, my
Oh,
beautiful girl, I'm going to get you to jump off so I can have a little bit more of a chat with my audience. Are you able to leave from your end, or do I have to do
I
the whole
can.
disconnect? You leave from
Thank you,
your end.
Kath.
I love you.
Love you.
And I will talk to you
Bye.
soon. Bye,
Thank
my
you.
darling. Bye.
Bye.
Wow. We could have talked for so much. She's just such a beautiful human being. And I know I do say this about all of my guests, but I love them for reasons. And their hearts are just amazing, and their soul are just, anyway, Mother Earth, she calls me. I love that. I've got one friend that calls me grandmothership anytime she needs to check in with me. I need to check in with my grandmothership. But yeah, check Penny out if you want a reading done. She is amazing. And she comes from pure love, absolute pure love. So next week, I have another guest on who I will announce in the show notes. And her name is Jojo. And she's another amazing human being. And I will continue to say this about everybody, because as far as I'm concerned, everybody's an amazing human being. Sometimes they're annoying, but not the people that I have on here, because I love them all. But yeah, once again, everybody, I thank you and I love you so much, and all your support has been incredible, and I love what I do. I love being able to share these stories with you, and I love being able to share my heart with you all, and know that I'm here to hear you and to hold you and to prop you up and to support you in any way that I can. And feel free anytime to shoot me a message through Instagram, through Facebook, through wherever you find me, YouTube. Drop a comment after watching a video. I will speak to you all next episode, and I love you again, always. Bye. On next week's episode, I have the gorgeous Jo Spear. Jo is a qualified event manager and mentor. She's had over 2 decades working in business and events for the government, and has assisted in successfully delivering over 3,000 meetings, workshops and seminars, over 250 events, and spoken in front of 1,500 people on a live and virtual stage. She also has personally facilitated over 1,500 through transformational sessions, events and breakthrough programs. She helps business owners like myself to create epic events and delivery, and builds a legacy without sacrificing our time, energy or lifestyle. She's incredible. Please join me for that episode. You will love Jo as much as I do. Thank you guys. Bye. Thank you for listening to today's podcast. I'm so grateful for each and every one of you. To get in touch with me regarding any of my episodes, you will find me on Instagram, Facebook and TikTok. Looking forward to sharing more of these with you. I love you. Bye.